Hello. Let's talk about a woman named Eleanor. If you met her, you'd say she was doing everything right. At 72, she's sharp, she's active, and she is fiercely protective of her independence. She reads everything she can about staying healthy. She walks every morning, does her crossword puzzles to keep her mind keen, and has a little pill organizer for the supplements she's been told are so important for aging well. She eats a big, healthy salad for lunch almost every single day, packed with spinach, kale, and all the good things we're told to eat. In her mind, she's building a fortress against the ravages of time. She's doing everything in her power to ensure she never becomes a burden on her children, to make sure she's there to see her grandkids grow up. But what Eleanor doesn't know, what nobody has ever told her, is that one of the healthy vitamins she is so diligent about is interacting with a common, life-saving medication she takes. Inside her own body, a silent war is being waged. One well-meaning habit is canceling out a critical medicine, creating a perfect storm in her bloodstream. Every healthy salad, every extra-strength multivitamin she takes, is unknowingly thickening her blood, destabilizing a system that her doctor worked so hard to protect. She feels completely fine. But she is, in fact, setting the stage for a catastrophic event. An event that could happen overnight. As a doctor who has dedicated my life to the brain, this is a scenario that I find genuinely shocking because I see it happen far too often. A well-meaning person, trying to do the absolute best for their health, is inadvertently putting themselves in grave danger because of a common vitamin. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly which vitamin this is, why the common advice about it is so dangerously incomplete for anyone over 60, and most importantly, the simple steps you can take, starting today, to ensure you are protecting yourself, not harming yourself. This is knowledge that can save a life. Let's make sure it's yours. Now, I don't share a story like Eleanor's to frighten you. I share it to empower you, because knowledge is the antidote to fear. The truth is, it's not your fault if this sounds confusing or even contradictory to what you've heard before. The world of health advice can feel like a maze, especially when our bodies and our needs are changing with age. One expert says one thing, a study says another, and you're left in the middle trying to piece it all together. That's exactly why this community exists. We're here to cut through that noise together. If this is the kind of clear, straightforward conversation about health you've been looking for, I invite you to subscribe and join us. And to make this a true conversation, I want to hear from you. Take a moment and go down to the comments section right now and tell me, what is the single biggest health concern on your mind? Is it memory, mobility, the side effects of medication? Your answer helps me understand what matters most to you, so we can tackle it together in future discussions. Your voice is crucial here. All right. Let's pull back the curtain. The vitamin we are talking about, the one at the center of Eleanor's story, is vitamin K. Now, before you go and throw out all your green vegetables, let me be absolutely clear. Vitamin K is not a villain. In fact, it's a hero in many ways. It's essential for life. It plays a crucial role in building strong bones and, most famously, in helping our blood to clot. Think of it this way. Imagine your blood vessels are a series of pipes. If a pipe springs a leak, say, you get a cut, your body needs a rapid response team to patch it up before you lose too much fluid. Vitamin K is the foreman of that repair crew. It activates a group of proteins, our clotting factors, and tells them, go. We have a breach. Form a patch, and form it now. This process is a miracle of biology. It saves our lives every single day, often without us even noticing. But what happens when the system is already at risk? For millions of people, especially those with conditions like atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat often called AFib, or those who have had a previous blood clot or a mechanical heart valve, the body's natural clotting process can become a danger. In these cases, a clot can form where it's not supposed to, inside a blood vessel in the heart or leg. If that clot breaks free and travels to the brain, it causes an ischemic stroke. This is the most common type of stroke, and it's devastating. To prevent this, doctors prescribe a very common and powerful medication, an anticoagulant, most famously known by the brand name Coumadin, or its generic name, Warfarin. This medication is a lifesaver. What it does, in simple terms, is interfere with vitamin K. It goes to the foreman of that clotting crew and says, "Hey, I need you and your team to slow down. Work at half speed. We don't want any unauthorized construction projects happening in here." The goal isn't to stop clotting altogether, but to slow it down just enough to prevent a dangerous, unwanted clot from forming. And here is where the silent danger begins. Here is the conflict that was happening inside Eleanor's body. She takes her Warfarin pill every evening, just as the doctor prescribed. The dosage of that pill was carefully calculated by her doctor based on her regular blood tests, specifically one called the INR test, which measures how long it takes her blood to clot. Her doctor adjusts the dose to keep her in a specific, therapeutic range. Not too thin, not too thick. But that dose is calibrated based on her normal diet. But then, inspired by a health article, Eleanor decides to get extra healthy. She starts having a large spinach and kale smoothie for breakfast. For lunch, she has a huge salad packed with broccoli, Brussels sprouts, and more dark leafy greens. She feels fantastic. She feels virtuous, like she's taking control of her health. What she doesn't realize is that these foods are incredibly rich in vitamin K. She is flooding her system with the very substance her medication is designed to suppress. It's like the foreman, vitamin K, is suddenly getting a massive shipment of new workers and supplies, completely overwhelming the manager's, Warfarin's, instructions to slow down. The foreman says, "Forget slowing down, we've got the resources, let's get ready to build." Her blood's clotting ability starts to ramp up, moving her out of that safe, therapeutic range. Her stroke risk begins to climb, day by day, and she is completely unaware. The healthy habit has completely undone the work of the life-saving medication. The critical takeaway here is not to fear green vegetables. Please, do not stop eating these wonderful, nutrient-dense foods. The secret, the absolute golden rule for anyone on Warfarin, is consistency. Your doctor expects you to consume a certain amount of vitamin K. The problem arises with drastic, sudden changes. Going from eating very few greens to eating massive salads every day is dangerous. Conversely, if you eat salads every day and then suddenly stop for a week, your blood could become too thin, raising your risk of bleeding. Your job isn't to avoid vitamin K, it's to keep your intake stable from week to week, so your Warfarin dose remains effective. If you decide you want to change your diet, or if you're considering taking a multivitamin that contains vitamin K, you must have a conversation with your doctor or pharmacist first. They may simply need to adjust your dose and monitor you more closely for a short time. Knowledge of this interaction isn't a restriction. It's a license to eat healthily and safely. It turns fear into a simple, manageable conversation. Let's move beyond the direct conflict of vitamin K and blood thinners and talk about a substance that you may have heard of, but perhaps not fully understood. It's a compound in our blood called homocysteine. Now, that's a very clinical-sounding word, but I want you to think of it not as a chemical, but as microscopic shards of glass floating through your bloodstream. Everyone has some homocysteine. It's a natural byproduct, an amino acid that's created as our body processes proteins. In a healthy system, our body uses a team of specific B vitamins, namely B6, B12, and folate, B9, to quickly clean up these shards. They take the sharp, potentially damaging homocysteine and recycle it into other useful, harmless substances. It's an elegant, efficient cleanup process that runs 24/7. But as we age, this system can become less efficient. Sometimes, we don't get enough of these key B vitamins from our diet. Certain medications can interfere with their absorption. And for some people, genetic factors make it harder for their bodies to use these vitamins effectively. When this cleanup crew is understaffed or doesn't have the right tools, the level of homocysteine, those tiny shards of glass, begins to rise in the blood. And this is where the danger to the brain begins. These shards aren't passive. They scrape and damage the delicate inner lining of our blood vessels, an important layer called the endothelium. Imagine the smooth, slick inside of a brand new water pipe. Water flows through it effortlessly. Now, imagine taking sandpaper to the inside of that pipe, creating little scratches and rough patches all over it. Suddenly, things can start to stick. The flow is disrupted. That's exactly what high homocysteine does. This damage to the vessel walls creates a state of chronic inflammation. It makes the artery walls less flexible, more rigid, a condition we know as atherosclerosis, or hardening of the arteries. Furthermore, these rough, damaged spots are like magnets for cholesterol and other fatty substances, which begin to cling to the walls, forming plaque. This plaque narrows the arteries, restricting blood flow to critical organs, especially the brain. A piece of this plaque can break off, or a clot can form on its rough surface, leading directly to a stroke. So, the logical conclusion seems simple, right? If low B vitamins lead to high homocysteine, we should just take high doses of B vitamins. For years, this was the prevailing wisdom. We thought we could simply flood the system with B vitamins and solve the problem. It makes perfect sense on paper. But here's the shocking twist, and a perfect example of why the human body is more complex than a simple equation. Several major clinical trials, large-scale, well-respected studies, were conducted to test this exact theory. They took thousands of patients at high risk for heart attack and stroke and gave them high-dose B vitamin supplements. The researchers, and indeed the entire medical community, expected to see a significant drop in cardiovascular events. The results were stunning, and not in a good way. The high-dose B vitamins did, in fact, lower homocysteine levels. The cleanup crew was working overtime, and the shards of glass were reduced. But the number of strokes and heart attacks did not go down. In some studies, particularly in patients with existing kidney disease or diabetes, the outcomes were actually worse. The patients receiving high-dose B vitamins had a higher rate of cardiovascular events and even mortality. Scientists are still working to understand the exact reasons for this paradoxical effect. One leading theory is that while high-dose synthetic B vitamins can lower homocysteine, they might do so in a way that disrupts other delicate metabolic processes. It's like using a sledgehammer to fix a watch. You might solve the initial problem, but you cause a cascade of unintended damage elsewhere. It seems that simply forcing a single number down on a lab report doesn't automatically translate to better health. The body's wisdom is more nuanced than that. The lesson here is profound. It's a story of humility in the face of our own biology. It teaches us that more is not always better, especially when it comes to supplements. The goal isn't to artificially hammer down homocysteine with massive, unnatural doses of isolated vitamins. The goal is to support the body's natural systems. This means getting your B vitamins from a well-rounded diet. Think lean meats, fish, eggs, legumes, and fortified whole grains. For many older adults, a standard well-formulated multivitamin can be a sensible insurance policy to prevent deficiency, but megadoses are not the answer and can, in fact, be dangerous. It's about balance and sufficiency, not overwhelming force. Now we've seen how one vitamin can dangerously thicken the blood and another, in high doses, can fail to deliver its promise. This leads us to a third incredibly common supplement, one that is almost synonymous with healthy aging and heart health. I'm talking about vitamin E. This vitamin introduces what I call the antioxidant paradox, a dangerous misunderstanding of the principle that, if a little is good, a lot must be better. First, let's appreciate what vitamin E does. It's a powerful antioxidant. To understand what that means, picture a freshly cut apple. If you leave it on the counter, it quickly turns brown. That browning is oxidation, a form of cellular damage caused by unstable molecules called free radicals. Now, if you squeeze some lemon juice on that apple, the browning process slows dramatically. The vitamin C in the lemon juice acts as an antioxidant, protecting the apple's cells. Vitamin E does something similar for the cells in our body. It's a fat-soluble vitamin, which means it incorporates itself into the fatty outer membranes of our cells. Think of it as a microscopic bodyguard, a rust-proofer that stands guard, protecting our cells from the constant barrage of oxidative stress that is a natural part of living, breathing, and metabolizing energy. In this role, it helps keep our cells healthy and functional. Because heart disease and stroke are linked to oxidative damage and inflammation, it seemed perfectly logical that taking extra vitamin E would provide extra protection. For decades, it was marketed as a miracle for cardiovascular health. People began taking high-dose supplements, often 400 international units, IU, or more per day, which is many times the recommended dietary amount. They believed they were building a powerful shield for their heart and brain. But this is where the story takes a dark turn. We need to remember that there are two primary types of stroke. The first, which we've mostly discussed, is an ischemic stroke, caused by a blockage or clot. But the second type is a hemorrhagic stroke. This happens when a weakened blood vessel in the brain ruptures and bleeds. While it's less common than ischemic stroke, it is often more deadly. And here's the devastating paradox. While people were taking high-dose vitamin E to prevent a stroke, the research began to show that it was actually increasing the risk of the other kind of stroke. Large, definitive studies, including the famous HOPE-2 trial, showed that taking 400 IU of vitamin E per day provided no benefit in preventing heart attacks or ischemic strokes, but it did lead to a statistically significant increase in the risk of hemorrhagic strokes. Why? It turns out that vitamin E has a mild blood-thinning effect. It inhibits the clumping of platelets, which are tiny cell fragments that are part of that initial patch on a damaged blood vessel. In the small amounts you get from food, this effect is negligible and harmless. But in high, concentrated doses from a supplement, this effect becomes much more pronounced. Now, imagine someone like my patient, George. He's 68 and has moderately high blood pressure, which he manages with medication. High blood pressure puts a constant, shearing force on the delicate arteries inside the brain, creating tiny, fragile weak spots over time. George, wanting to be proactive, starts taking a high-dose vitamin E capsule every morning. He feels great, convinced he's protecting his brain. But what's really happening is a double jeopardy. His high blood pressure is weakening the vessel walls, and his high-dose vitamin E is making his blood less able to form a life-saving clot if one of those weak spots finally gives way. He has unknowingly created the perfect conditions for a brain bleed. The life-saving advice here is crystal clear. Get your vitamin E from your food, not from a pill bottle. The vitamin E you get from almonds, sunflower seeds, avocados, and spinach comes packaged with a whole symphony of other nutrients that work in harmony. The body knows how to use this form. High-dose supplementation, however, is an unnatural intervention that has been shown to be more dangerous than beneficial for stroke prevention. If you are currently taking a high-dose vitamin E supplement, it is imperative that you have a conversation with your doctor about whether it is truly necessary, or if it might be silently increasing your risk. So far, we've looked at specific vitamins that directly influence the blood itself, making it too thick or too thin. But there's a deeper, more foundational issue that creates the fragile environment where these imbalances can become catastrophic. Let's zoom out from the individual vitamins and look at the house they all live in, your blood vessels. All the vitamins and minerals in the world can't protect you if the very pathways that deliver them are crumbling. And the single most corrosive force acting on this vascular architecture is something many people take without a second thought: excess sugar. I'm not just talking about the obvious culprits like soda, candy, and pastries. I'm talking about the hidden sugars in foods that we perceive as healthy. The flavored yogurts, the salad dressings, the breakfast cereals, even the whole wheat bread that can spike our blood sugar just as much as a candy bar. The constant, high-level exposure to sugar in the modern diet creates a state in the body that is disastrous for our brain's blood supply. I want you to imagine a process called glycation. It's a bit of a scientific term, but the concept is simple. Picture a brand new, soft, flexible leather glove. You can bend it, work with it, it's pliable and resilient. Now, imagine dipping that glove in a vat of sticky, sugary caramel and then letting it bake in the sun. What would you get? A stiff, brittle, cracked mess. The leather has lost its flexibility and its strength. This is exactly what excess sugar does to the proteins in your body, especially the delicate proteins that make up the walls of your arteries, like collagen and elastin. Sugar molecules attach to these proteins in a process called glycation, creating something called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs for short. It's an ironically perfect acronym, because these compounds literally age your arteries from the inside out. They turn your once flexible blood vessels into those stiff, brittle, caramel-coated pipes. This stiffness is incredibly dangerous. Healthy blood vessels are meant to expand and contract with every heartbeat to manage blood flow and pressure. When they become rigid, your blood pressure rises, putting immense strain on the entire system. Think of it like trying to force water through a rigid iron pipe versus a flexible garden hose. The pressure builds up dramatically in the iron pipe. This constant, elevated pressure is a primary driver of both ischemic and hemorrhagic strokes. It weakens the vessel walls, making them prone to rupture, and it accelerates the buildup of plaque in the damaged areas. Let's bring this to life with a story. Consider a gentleman named Robert, a retired schoolteacher. He's a diabetic, but he feels he has it mostly under control. He gave up sugary sodas years ago. However, his daily routine starts with a large glass of orange juice. He thinks it's pure health, followed by a bowl of heart-healthy oatmeal, sweetened with a generous spoonful of honey. For lunch, he has a sandwich on whole wheat bread with a low-fat raspberry vinaigrette on his side salad. He doesn't realize that this entire healthy meal is a tidal wave of sugar. The orange juice is essentially sugar water without the fiber, the sweetened oatmeal is a rapid carb load, and the dressing is full of hidden sweeteners. Day after day, Robert is unknowingly coating the inside of his arteries with that sticky, brittle caramel. He might notice his feet getting colder, a sign of poor circulation. He might feel a little more tired than he used to, blaming it on age. He doesn't connect these subtle feelings to the glycation happening deep within his body, stiffening the arteries leading to his brain. He is creating a fragile, high-pressure system just waiting for a point of failure. The powerful takeaway here is that managing your blood vessels is not about one bad vitamin, but about the entire environment you create with your diet. The solution isn't some magic pill. It's about becoming a sugar detective. Start reading labels, not for the fat content, but for the added sugars. Be wary of anything that comes in a box or a bottle. Prioritize whole, unprocessed foods, vegetables, high-quality proteins, healthy fats, and low-sugar fruits like berries. The goal is to starve the glycation process, to stop dipping your arteries in that caramel. By controlling your blood sugar, you are doing more for your long-term brain health than almost any supplement could ever promise. You're addressing the root cause, not just the symptoms. You're maintaining the supple, resilient architecture of your vascular system, which is the ultimate defense against the risk of stroke. So we have the direct effect of vitamin K, the paradoxical risk of high-dose B and E vitamins, and the foundational damage of sugar. What if I told you there's one more category, a type of supplement that many people see as completely natural and harmless, but which can pose a grave risk by interacting with nearly every system we've discussed? This brings us to our final, and perhaps most complex, category of risk: herbal supplements. This is an area where the line between natural remedy and potent drug becomes dangerously blurred. There is a powerful and pervasive belief that if something comes from a plant, it must be gentle and safe. This belief, while understandable, can lead to devastating consequences for an older adult on medication. Think about it. Many of our most powerful pharmaceutical drugs originated from plants. Aspirin came from willow bark. The heart medication digoxin comes from the foxglove plant. Herbs are not inert powders. They are complex chemical symphonies containing active compounds that can have profound effects on our physiology. And because they are sold as supplements and not drugs, they exist in a largely unregulated world without the rigorous testing for safety and interactions that prescription medications undergo. Let's focus on two of the most popular herbs taken for brain health and mood: ginkgo biloba and St. John's wort. Ginkgo is famous for its supposed memory-boosting properties. St. John's wort is widely used as a natural alternative for managing low mood or mild depression. Imagine a woman named Brenda. She's in her late 60s, feeling a bit of brain fog and a general lack of her usual spark. She's a little embarrassed to bring it up with her doctor, thinking it's just a normal part of aging. So, she visits a health food store, where a well-meaning employee recommends ginkgo for her memory and St. John's wort to lift her spirits. It sounds like the perfect, natural solution. Brenda is also on two very common prescriptions from her doctor: a daily low-dose aspirin to protect her heart, and a statin to manage her cholesterol. In her mind, the prescriptions are in one box, and the natural herbs are in another. She sees no reason to mention them to her doctor or pharmacist. Here's the silent disaster unfolding inside her body. First, the ginkgo biloba. Like vitamin E, ginkgo has significant blood-thinning properties. It's now working in combination with her daily aspirin, which also thins the blood. She has unwittingly doubled down on this effect, dramatically increasing her risk of a hemorrhagic stroke or a serious bleeding event from a minor injury. Simultaneously, the St. John's wort is creating a different, equally dangerous problem. Our liver is the body's primary processing plant for medications. It uses a specific set of enzymes, the cytochrome P450 system, to break down and clear drugs from our system. St. John's wort is famous in the medical world for being a powerful inducer of these enzymes. It basically puts the liver's entire processing assembly line on hyperspeed. This means that Brenda's statin medication, which relies on that assembly line, is now being broken down and eliminated from her body far too quickly, before it has a chance to do its job. Her cholesterol levels, which she thought were under control, start to creep back up. The plaque in her arteries begins to build up again, narrowing the vessels to her brain and increasing her risk of an ischemic stroke. In trying to feel better with natural remedies, Brenda has inadvertently made both her prescribed medications less effective and more dangerous. She has created a metabolic traffic jam and is now at a higher risk for both major types of stroke. The critical lesson here is one of complete transparency. Your doctor and, just as importantly, your pharmacist must be your partners in health. They need a complete inventory of every single thing you put in your body. This doesn't just mean your prescriptions. It means the multivitamin you take, the fish oil capsule, the ginkgo, the turmeric, the sleepy time tea with valerian root. Make a list, a physical, written list, and take it with you to every single doctor's appointment and to the pharmacy. Your pharmacist is one of the most brilliant and underutilized resources you have. They are experts in these interactions. This isn't about getting permission. It's about ensuring your safety. You are the CEO of your own health, but your doctor and pharmacist are your most important board members. Keeping them in the dark is like flying a plane without telling your co-pilot you've decided to turn off one of the engines. It's a lot to take in, I know. It can feel like a minefield, with hidden dangers at every turn. But I want you to see this not as a list of things to fear, but as a map. It's a map that illuminates the risks so you can navigate around them. This knowledge doesn't paralyze you. It gives you the power to ask the right questions and make truly informed decisions, transforming you from a passive patient into an active, empowered guardian of your own well-being. And becoming that active, empowered guardian of your own well-being is the entire point of our conversation today. We've traveled through a complex landscape together, haven't we? From the delicate balance of vitamin K, to the paradox of B and E vitamins, the corrosive power of hidden sugars, and the potent chemistry of herbal remedies. It would be easy to walk away from this feeling overwhelmed, as if every choice you make is a potential landmine. But I urge you to see it through a different lens. The real, shocking secret we uncovered today isn't a single vitamin. It's the flawed and outdated idea that our health is a simple machine, where we can just add a stronger part here or a new chemical there and expect a better result. The human body is not a machine. It is a symphony orchestra. Every single thing we consume, every food, every pill, every herb, is an instrument playing its part. Warfarin is the conductor asking the strings to play softly, while a sudden flood of vitamin K from a new diet tells them to play a thundering crescendo. A megadose of AB vitamin isn't a finely tuned violin. It's a blaring air horn that throws the entire performance into chaos. What this knowledge gives you is the conductor's score. For the first time, perhaps, you can see how all the pieces are meant to work together, and you can spot the notes that will create discord. This isn't about fear. It's about finesse. It's about shifting your mindset from asking, "What pill can I take?" to asking, "What does my body's orchestra need to play in harmony?" The answer, most often, is found in consistency, moderation, and open communication. It is the simple power of a balanced meal over a high-dose supplement. It is the profound safety of an informed conversation with your doctor over a silent, private guess. This knowledge gives you control. It's the key that keeps you in the driver's seat of your own life, protecting that fierce independence and ensuring you are there for every precious moment yet to come. If you found this conversation valuable, the single most helpful thing you can do is press the like button. It tells the wider world that this information is important, and it helps get this life-saving message to other seniors who may need to hear it. And if you haven't already, please subscribe and become a permanent part of our community here. We will continue to explore these topics with the clarity and depth you deserve. Thank you for your time and your trust today. Be well, stay informed, and I look forward to seeing you in our next conversation.